Hello friends, a great welcome to my channel. I am Poonam Dua and today we are going to talk about Helen Keller. And as per the tradition, as per the convention, we are not going to talk about her blind and deaf status. We will talk about socialism. She was a socialist and how, because of socialism, she got landed into trouble. Let us proceed to the video now. The topic that we are covering is very important topic for Delhi University students and it is literature and disability. So you can cover with the help of this playlist, you can cover many major topics which will be very helpful for your examination. The whole link to this playlist I'll provide to you in description. Her full name was Helen Adams Keller and she was born on 27 June 1880 to an upper class, well connected, well educated family in Alabama, US. And I think many of you know she was the first deaf and blind person to earn a bachelor's degree, and she advocated, she favored, she asked for the standardization of Braille. Braille is a reading and writing system for visually impaired people, leading to Braille being standardized in the United States in 1914. So by 1914, it was a success. If you have not been and you do not have time to go through the whole book of Helen Keller, The Story of My Life, I suggest you watch this movie, Black, a 2005 Indian drama film directed by Sanjay Leela Bhansali. Film draws inspiration from Helen Keller's life and her struggle. The Story of My Life, very popular and part of many academics. Helen Keller's life narrative, you can call it to be autobiography, written in three parts. Let us see all the three parts, part 1, part 2, part 3. Part 1 is completely an autobiography published in 1903. Part 2 selection of her letters, and part 3 is actually not from Helen Keller directly but from the teacher Annie Sullivan. How I became a socialist. Actually, this is the topic that we have to cover. We know too much about Helen Keller. We know too much about her struggle. We know that she was the first blind and deaf student to get the graduation degree. But many of us do not know that she was a complete socialist, and for this socialist viewpoint as well, she had to struggle a lot. Socialism was not very popular in America but was a political ideology or the result of a political revolution in Russia, USSR at that point of time it was, and very popular during the early 20th century. In 1909, Helen Keller became a member of Socialist Party. She actively campaigned and wrote in support of the working class from 1909 to 1921. Many of her speeches and writings were about women's right to vote and the effects of wars, World War I specifically. In addition, she supported causes that opposed military intervention. So she did enter into politics not directly but indirectly by giving her viewpoints of socialism. There is a book as well, Helen Keller's book, Her Socialist Years. The essay basically begins with Keller expressing her displeasure at the great amount of publicity accorded to her and her opinion on socialism. She was a socialist, that was her ideology, but that became very popular. The fact became very popular that she is a socialist. Few people were favoring her, few editors, few newspapers, few magazines, few political parties were against her. She states how the essay is a means to clarify her position on socialism, correct some false reports, and respond to some unjust criticism. She could not tolerate that criticism and she wanted to justify her viewpoint why I'm a socialist. As I told you, Helen Keller was not only famous for overcoming her blindness and deafness and the first blind and deaf person to be graduated, but she was also the best known figures in the American socialist movement. Her book, The Socialist Years, is a proof of that. The book includes her arguments for women's suffrage, her opposition to World War I, her defense of the Wobblies. Wobblies were the Workers Association, Industrial Workers Association. This was the nickname given to that association. Her views on birth control, her support of the socialist, very famous socialist Eugene V. Debs, her plea on behalf of unemployed, and her defense of the newborn Soviet Union and its leader Lenin. I've taken the real experts from her book, Her Socialist Years, edited with an introduction by Philip Aspirants. Here is the poor deaf and blind girl Helen Keller speaking and writing as a champion of the poor and oppressed in their struggle against industrial deafness and social blindness. We will talk about this industrial deafness and social blindness later on in this video. So in introduction, she has been called that she is working as a savior for other people, for those who are oppressed because of capitalism. There are so many chapters in this book, but we will concentrate on the first one, How I Became a Socialist. I've taken the very initial excerpt for you, written by Helen herself. For several months, my name and socialism have appeared often together in newspapers. She was, very much worried about the notorious image that was being given to her because of just being a socialist. A friend tells me that I have shared the front pages with baseball, Mr. Roosevelt, and the New York police scandal. So many other things are happening in the country, and baseball, which is the national game, Roosevelt, very prominent personality, police scandals are always on top of the newspaper. She is also sharing a front page with these kind of major news. Association does not make me altogether happy, but on the whole, I'm glad that many people are interested in me and in the educational achievement of my teacher, Mrs. Messi. उनकी टीचर का नाम था पूरा एन सुलिवन मेसी. Even notoriety may be turned to beneficent uses, and I rejoice if the disposition of the newspaper to record my activities result in bringing more often into their columns the word socialism. In the future, I hope to write about socialism and to justify in some measure the great amount of publicity which has been accorded to me and my opinions. So she is just trying to say that recently she has been very popular but in a negative way, and someday if she gets a chance she will try her best to justify her position as a socialist. Not only that, she was angry, but she goes on to comment on the first false report about her published in the Common Cause and reprinted in the Live issue, two anti-socialist publications which claim that a teacher was an enthusiastic Marxist propagandist and that she had influenced Keller's opinion regarding the same. Keller denies that my teacher has not done anything, clarifying that Mrs. N. A. Sullivan Macy was neither a Marxist nor a socialist. The article further claimed that Keller was being exploited by the socialists of Schenectady. This is a city, we will talk about it later on, a city in New York State, for publicity. She was doing everything just for publicity. This plain red flag here is the representation of socialism. The plain red flag is often used at socialist or communist rallies, especially on International Workers' Days. In politics, a red flag is predominantly a symbol of socialism, communism, Marxism, trade unions, left-wing politics, and anarchism. It has been associated with left-wing politics since the French. So, रेड फ्लैग की भी एक इम्पोर्टेंस है इस आर्टिकल में, इसलिए पहले मैं आपको रेड फ्लैग का मतलब समझा रही हूँ. रेड फ्लैग को सोशलिज्म मार्क्सिज्म से एसोसिएट किया जाता है. एक एडिटोरियल में हेलन केलर के बारे में छपा था, द कंटेम्प्टेबल रेड फ्लैग, published in the Times, had thereafter implied that she did not deserve respect, any sympathy, and that she should be regarded with suspicion. She is the one who carries the red flag. That means she is not a true American. Look how she replied. I'm no worshipper of cloth of any color, but I love the red flag and what it symbolizes to me and other socialists. I have a red flag hanging in my study, and if I could, I should gladly march with it past the office of the Times and let all the reporters and photographers make the most of the spectacle. If you want, I can come to your office, I can show myself with the red flag, and you can enjoy that scenario. This city's connectivity is again in picture. Let us see why. Now Helen Keller writes about her, about how she was treated by Times. The editor of the Times wrote assuring me that his paper was a valuable medium for reaching the public and he wanted an article from me. He also telegraphed asking me to send him an account of my plans and to outline my ideas of my duties as a member of the Board of Public Welfare of Schenectady. I am glad I did not comply with the request. टाइम्स के एडिटर हेलेन से चाहते थे कि वो उनके लिए एक आर्टिकल लिखे अपने व्यू पॉइंट्स के बारे में, लेकिन हेलेन ने मना कर दिया. For some days later, the Times made me a social outcast beyond the range of its righteous sympathies. On September 21, there appeared in Times an editorial called The Contemptible Red Flag. I quote two passages from it. The flag is free, but it is nonetheless detestable. It is a symbol of the lawlessness and anarchy the world over, and as such is held in contempt by all right-minded persons. हेलन केलर उस रेड फ्लैग को कैरी करती थी और उस रेड फ्लैग के बारे में एक नेगेटिव आर्टिकल पब्लिश हुआ. The bearer of the flag may not be molested by the police until he or she commits some act which the red flag justifies. He deserves, however, always to be regarded with suspicion. By carrying the symbol of lawlessness, he forfeits all right to respect and sympathy. एक बहुत ही इनडायरेक्ट आर्टिकल की अगर कोई भी इस रेड फ्लैग को यानी कि सोशलिज्म को कैरी कर रहा है तो उसको उस पर्सन को आउटकास्ट कर देना चाहिए, ऐसा आर्टिकल पब्लिश किया टाइम्स ने. लेकिन हेलन केलर ने एज आई टोल्ड यू ऑलरेडी कह दिया था कि आई एम नॉट अ वर्शिपर ऑफ एनी color. Basically, I love the ideologies associated with it, and to choose any ideology is the right of any person. The fact that Helen Keller's work set the path for the development of a Marxist concept of disability, operation, and emancipation cannot be ignored, and despite the fact that her contribution to socialist theory and practice as a serious political thinker is sometimes neglected. So it is not that she was, taking part in any kind of violent activities being done by socialists. She was with socialism. She was with Marxism only to favor disabled people, only to oppose disability operation and emancipation, and this should not have been ignored. This was a great lady. She dedicatedly, completely supported working class, disability, and women causes for more than a decade. The majority of disabilities in US, according to her, are caused by occupational accidents and other reasons that further marginalize the disabled include poverty, unsanitary living circumstances, unequal access to health care, capitalism's marginalization, and general apathy. बहुत सारी चीज़ें हैं, फीमेल्स की सिचुएशन, डिसेबल्स की सिचुएशन, इनमें सुधार आना बहुत ज़रूरी था. पुअर लोगों की सिचुएशन में, सैनिटरी कंडीशन में सुधार आना बहुत ज़रूरी था. एंड दीज वर द कॉजेज दैट शी वाज फाइटिंग फॉर. हेलन केलर का मानना था कि दुनिया में जितनी भी ट्रबल्स हैं वो कैपिटलिज्म की वजह से हैं या फिर उनकी वजह से हैं जो कि पावरफुल पोजीशंस में हैं. She said, this is a quote from her, readers are provoked to think again how much industrial blindness of capital workplaces and social deafness of those in position of power contribute to the operation of the disabled after reading this essay. तो ये उनका पर्पस था इस ऐसे को लिखना कि वो ऐसा नहीं चाहती थी कि कोई वायलेंट रेवोल्यूशन करें, बट वो सिर्फ इतना चाहती थी कि ये जो भी जितने भी कैपिटलिस्ट्स हैं, जितने भी सो कॉल्ड पावरफुल लोग हैं, कहीं ना कहीं they should be able to understand the operation of the disabled, condition of the disabled and disabled लोग जो हैं उनको एक इक्वालिटी की पोजीशन में लाना बहुत जरूरी है जिससे कि उनकी डिपेंडेंसी खत्म हो जाए. So she was just a socialist for the good causes. That is it for this part of the essay. You may join the classes to cover all the topics in detail. Can click the link in description to get connected to us for admission. Thanks for watching. Best of luck for exams and please do not forget to share and subscribe the channel and provide your valuable feedback in comments.